Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fresh Off the Set, the podcast that we do here at Fresh Living. My name is David Osmond.
And I'm Laura Murray.
Welcome to this episode of this podcast. This is going to be a very unique one because there's a big trend going on right now where relationship attachment styles are all over social media right now. And we thought we'd bring an expert in that knows this industry, this field better than anybody to kind of break it down for us. And Kari sat down with Loni Harmon, and she's a dating relationship coach and therapist. So what she does is she came to talk to Kari about the 6 different types of relationship attachment styles. Yeah. Now, have you seen this trend going on social media?
I'm so excited about this one because I have had friends talk to me about relationship attachment styles, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
What is that?
What is that? And so now I looked into it a little bit, and relationship attachment styles are so interesting because I think when people first hear them, they assume that it is just for a romantic partner. But really, it's your attachment styles with your friends, your family, your coworkers, the people you are dating.
Every person in your life.
Exactly. And how you attach to them, maybe why, and different things like that. And it's also interesting because they're very fluid. Like, they can depend on the situation you're in. Yeah. They can change with a certain person.
And your attachment style changes with each individual relationship.
Yeah, it can.
There's no right or wrong. It's just being able to identify it and see how, what's working, what's not working.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how to work with that.
And honestly, like I said, I didn't quite know what this was until I had a friend bring it up. And then I started seeing it a little more on social media. So I don't know a lot about this, which is why I'm so excited, again, that Kari did this interview so I can, learn more.
I totally agree, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say because when I first saw the topic, it reminded me of the color that you're assigned, like your personality. You ever taken that quiz?
Yes,
I'm a yellow, I'm a red.
Yes.
It's not that. It's really like there are certain styles. In fact, she says that there are 4 attachment styles, and she breaks them down, how to spot them, but also how to fix them if it's just not quite working. So I'm really interested to see how she engages with Kari and spells this out for us so we can identify it in our own lives. And it's fascinating. It's pretty cool to see how we all, have just this different personality types, but how we gel together, how we puzzle fit.
And I mean, relationships truly are one of the greatest things about life. So learning how you relate to others, your attachment styles, how to grow, how to create better relationships.
And you can tell, like, when you connect with someone, like, sometimes there's just this immediate magnetic, like, you're best friends immediately. And some relationships take a little bit of work. So a little hard, but you learn to navigate that and make it as healthy as possible. So she's got some great advice for us, great expertise in this field as the relationship coach and therapist. So Loni Harmon's her name. Should we kick this off? Check it out?
Let's do it.
All right.
I am really looking forward to this podcast today. Loni Harmon, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Okay, what is a relationship attachment style? Let's talk about that first.
Attachment style refers to how we interact with each other. It's the way of communicating that there is an unspoken connection between us. And it was actually researched and theorized back in the 1950s by John Bowlby. He was a British psychoanalyst. If anybody listening ever took Psych 101, it was those disturbing videos where the mom walks in the room and the baby's in the high chair. And if the mom gives a pleasant face and, maybe a smile or a sing-song voice, the baby's reacting and clapping and so excited. And then they say, okay, now come back in, Mom. Don't look at him. Don't interact with him. Don't say anything. Oh. And the baby gets super stressed out. That's the attachment theory.
That's where it comes from. Okay, let's break down. There are 4, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's break down each one of them. What's the first one?
Secure attachment style is our what we hope to be. So I always lead with that one as a preference. We start with the secure.
We hope to be the secure attachment. Okay, what does this one look like?
Secure attachment, let's break it down in more simplified terms, just because I think people will relate to infancy and newborns a little bit easier. So if you remember when you had a little baby and they came into their body, they came pre-programmed with needs. What were some of those needs?
What are their needs? They need to be fed. They need to be changed. They need to be loved.
Right. And maybe somebody taught you that, but also you kind of started intuitively knowing that. Your mother, vibe turns on. But when the baby cries for the first time, do you automatically know what they need?
No.
No, it's so stressful.
You have no idea. It is so stressful. And you're trying a million things.
Right. And you're so tired. You just want to shower.
You're so tired. You just want a nap.
So The first thing in the attachment cycle is that you come pre-programmed with needs. And when a need goes off, let's say like the baby needs to be fed, they're going to do an audible cry. We as the caregivers are hopefully nearby and responsive, and we can pick up on that cue, and then we can say, oh, I need to figure out what you need. As the baby is showing that stress response or that arousal, saying like, help me, soothe me, as the caregiver works to soothe, then what happens is the baby's needs are met. And when a baby's needs are met, they relax. What does it look like when a baby's relaxed?
They're not fussy. I think fussy is like the biggest one, crying, but like fussy, they're calm, they're smiley, they're chill.
They're chill, they're interacting with you, they think you're the cutest thing. Maybe they've even fallen asleep. And when they're asleep, we just start looking at their pictures and we're like, oh, you are the cutest thing that's ever happened to anybody.
And then we miss them.
Yes, and we're so tired, but we miss them. It's a very weird feeling. So what happens is the baby learns, hey, when I have that need and that human is nearby me, they're really good at figuring it out. And if they can't figure it out, they're going to keep trying until they figure it out.
They just know. They're not worried that even though we may have not figured it out right away, that we're going to try.
Yeah, we're going to try. We're going to hang in there with them, because more often than not, they figure it out and my needs are met and I'm soothed. And so I'm going to keep turning towards that person. And as the caregiver on the outside, which by the way, babies can have up to 5 primary attachments. So don't freak out, Mom, if you're
up to 5.
Up to 5, I know, research says that. And so as the caregiver on the outside, we figure out that we really also love to be needed. There's a need inside of us to feel like we matter. And that helps lift our self-esteem and put us in a situation where we're feeling like we can contribute to the world and it's a safe place for us to be. And so as we meet the needs of the baby, we actually feel connected to the baby and we get self-esteem. And so we feel like I'm doing pretty good at this mom thing or whatever it might be. So this cycle of security is how it starts in infancy, when we have a primary attachment with someone that we know will listen to us, will attune to us, and will be responsive. We will then cry. We will then speak. And as the child grows, they learn to speak out loud, and they learn that, hey, I can ask someone to where the bathroom is, or I can ask someone to give me a hug, or that I need to eat. And most people in my life are careful with me, and they're going to soothe and help meet my need. And so I learned my world is a safe place. So let's say one day they go to the playground and someone throws a rock at them and they are so upset, and they came back and they're like, Mom, he threw a rock at me and he called me a dummy head. And you're like, well, you are not a dummy head. And I am so sorry that happened to you. And you are, enveloping them in that safe place where you're meeting their emotional needs. The kid goes, I am not a dummy head. He just thinks I am, and he's an other. And so they learn that there's this circle of security. I can go out, here's my safe home place. I can go out into the world. I can, have experiences, good or bad, but especially if I have a bad one, I can come home and those are my people.
And reset.
So that's a secure attachment. And you hope that that happens throughout the child's lifetime, because that's when they learn the world is a safe place. I can safely trust.
That's so interesting that it starts that early. I mean, I guess, we all begin at infancy and but I was thinking maybe they would start when you have relationships and when you're a little bit older, but that goes clear back to when you're a baby. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. Secure attachment style. Okay. What about the disorganized attachment style?
So disorganized attachment style falls under the category when the child might be anxious and or avoidant. So let me go explain a couple of those, and then disorganized will just make sense magically. In infancy or at some point in the relationship progression of life, you can have a relationship with someone who you'd like to be close to you, meaning this could be like with a best friend, or this could be a romantic relationship. And let's say that you're turning to them and you're communicating and you're doing all these great things that you learned to do, and that other person is they're not hearing you. Either you're not explaining it well, or they're just really inconsistent in your life. They're hit and miss, non-responsive, very responsive, and you just kind of learn, like, this doesn't feel safe. When I turn to you and I communicate with you, this doesn't feel safe. And so I am learning that there are people that I might want to be close to me that this isn't going to work out. Or, and if it goes into a romantic relationship situation, let's say you have a secure attachment within a marriage and things are going really, really well. And then suddenly there's resentment and all these other things that can kind of erode a relationship. When that ends, you can develop an anxious attachment to people aren't there for me, right? And it can be really painful in that way. Sometimes anxious attachment is also something that happens because we have a genetic predisposition for anxiety, and that anxiety just kind of gives that anxious brain, and so we just need a little bit of extra reassurance. So basically, a very clear, easy way to define anxious attachment is that the communication's not happening. Whether I'm communicating and my person isn't receiving it or getting it, they're not available, or I'm just not going to communicate clearly and then be really upset and stay anxious. And that kind of lends to the other side of things, which is the avoidant. And avoidance it gets a bad rap. It is a really hard attachment style, so I will say that. It's one of those ones that I'm like.
So if you are this, it's okay.
It's okay. You're going to be okay, but also let's get to work.
Let's work on some things. We're always working on stuff. Always working on ourselves.
Avoidant attachment style can happen because you don't have caregivers that are nearby or consistent kind of at all. You just basically learn people are not there for me. And it can be because primary caregivers were not there, or you just had repetitive patterns of people that were not there for you. And so you learn the world is not safe. There's not that circle of security for you. And so you don't like turning to people. It just feels uncomfortable. Like people burn me, people do not take care of me. And so I'd rather just take care of it myself. And so there's this soothing that you need, because we all have feelings, we're all wired that way, but this soothing is going to be self-soothing. And you can do that in any form. It can be, I work 100 hours. It can be, it can be drug and alcohol addiction. It can be just completely isolating and ignoring your family during hours when most people are awake and interactive. So there's lots of different things that can happen with that attachment style. And so the disorganized just looks like I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between those two.
I see. Okay. So those are the four. So secure, disorganized, avoidant, anxious. Can you be more than one?
Absolutely. And sometimes different people will bring out a different attachment style inside of you because you intuitively can feel like, oh, they're safe. I could trust them. Like I walk in, I start talking with you, Kari, and I'm like, oh, what's up? How's it going? Let's talk about our kids. And, you have a very calm energy. And there's
thank you. You do
there's
too.
This space where you just kind of open up and you're like, yeah, this feels good. And there's other people where you're going to read, hold it in, stay back. This is not safe.
That's true. Okay. So it can depend on the situation and the relationship. So you could start off maybe in a secure attachment style, but then as life kind of wears us down, which happens once in a while, doesn't it? You can maybe change into different styles, disorganized, avoidant, anxious.
Exactly. But primarily what happens with your attachment system is that you will go to secure, anxious, or avoidant under conflict with the primary attachment that you have. So an easy way of explaining this is like, if I'm ever in conflict with my husband, my default is anxious, and his default sometimes is avoidant. We both had really secure upbringings, but our 20s were really hard
20s
relationship,
right?
Lots of hit and misses with romantic relationships, and he developed a little bit of an avoidant, and I developed a little bit of anxious. So when we get under conflict, my ideal is like, let's talk about this and talk about this and talk about this and talk about this until I feel better.
Because you want to be reassured, you want to know.
And his is like, peace out, home skillet. Let's talk in a couple days or hours or never.
Right. Yeah. Avoidance, whatever that may mean to him. Okay. Okay. How do attachment types develop, like clear back to childhood? If can you start with all four, as a baby, or is usually one and develops into other ones?
I think we're hardwired to develop a secure attachment. I mean, I haven't actually read research. That was one of your questions that I thought, that's such a great question. Your primary attachment, I think, is to start secure. Babies don't usually start out and be like, oh, I don't need you.
Right.
Just
come, need
come
food.
later. Come later. I'm fine
Right.
I'm fine to be hungry for a while. And like, they're just mad, and they're like, somebody needs to take care of me. Now, you can look at things like colic or some other situations and things that come up and say, I am doing everything that I'm supposed to do to soothe this baby, and this baby is just unsoothable, right? Sometimes I do feel like there are some hardwiring things that come within our genetics that make it really hard to soothe.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is it going to be your experience, or is it going to be genetics, or can it be both?
I think it can be both. Kids tend to do better as they develop language and can communicate more. I have a daughter who's on the spectrum, and she's young, and so developing her language was a little bit later, and still developing. I shouldn't say developed. She's delayed that way. And so they've got these wonderful programs that help us to communicate in some other way. Like, for example, she uses something called PECS, and basically it's a picture language, and she knows, this means hot dog. She loves hot dogs. Don't know why. Turkey.
I love them too.
I mean, it's a great American food, right? It is. And so when we showed her the picture and we put that in the middle, then the teachers would teach her just repeat, I want. This is hot dog.
From the picture.
From the picture. So eventually that's how the sentence structure started building. And the attachment, I think, has always been there for us, but it's been frustrating because she is frustrated. Like, I am trying here, people.
Sure. She's doing her best.
She's like, I am looking at you in the eye. I'm saying all the words, and I'm like, you're speaking like a little Ewok, and you're so cute, and I don't know.
But the pictures helped her.
Yes, a lot.
How do attachment styles, how would we know which one we had? Is it easy to self-diagnose?
I think so, but I'm also an attachment junkie, so I see it when people are driving. I'm always like, oh, they're anxious. They got a little anxious.
Oh, you can see it from that far away.
I'm such a nerd. I've been studying this for so long, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that people can tell basically the easiest way to tell is like, do I readily engage and respond in at least 5 relationships?
So that'd be secure.
Mm-hmm. Like, people say, hey, this is me. What's up? This is a hard thing for me. Am I following up with them and saying, are you okay? Or what can I help you with? Mm-hmm. And am I letting people do that for me? Am I letting people in? And I think if that system is going, then you're doing secure. If there's hiccups in that system, you most likely are anxious or avoidant. But you can also take tests online. My favorite test I will drop, and I'm not getting a hit for this, it's called attachedthebook.com.
Attachedthebook.com.
Yeah, that's my favorite attachment book is called Attached. And attachedthebook.com has a great attachment style quiz.
Now, originally, when I was going to talk to you about this, when I was thinking about it, my mindset was in relationships, like romantic relationships, like, partnerships and your significant other. But this is really in any relationship. So parent, child, brother, sister, coworker, significant other.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, romantic relationships are where we tend to have our attachment system flares come up the most. And so in my line of work, that's exactly what I do too. I'm mostly working on romantic relationship attachment issues because for whatever reason, when we start dating, it's like our brain shuts off and you can do secure attachment all across the board, but you're going to be anxious on a date and you're going to act like a different person for some reason.
Sure. Yeah, true. So we can technically have like a secure attachment style with our significant other, maybe a avoidant attachment with a sister or brother. So that can be kind of depending on the person.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit chaotic when you put it in, when you're explaining it and you're like, yeah, you can have like 17 different personalities with different people. And you are going to most likely do one primary attachment style, but the safety to which you feel with them is going to kind of adjust whether it's how it goes. But you just want to look at like, let's say, for example, with a lot of the clients that I work with, and then even with myself, secure was mostly what I did. A couple of anxious or avoidant relationships through, friendships and things. Early dating years, pretty secure. And then I hit like a broken engagement and I just was like avoidant as all get out, but secretly feeling so much anxiety. So that romantic relationship piece, when things don't work out and it doesn't go through that circle of security, can sometimes just be how you show up inside of that romantic place. And it can bleed out, I think, into other areas.
Sure, just depending on your experience. Yeah, that makes sense. What can we do? I mean, we all strive to be that secure attachment style, and what can we do if we are not?
Yeah, the best thing that I recommend when a client is struggling to, when they've identified this isn't going well for me, is really to start finding a mentor or somebody that they could try to start modeling a secure attachment with that feels safe. Sometimes that's in-person therapy. Sometimes that's even virtual therapy. Sometimes it's even a life coach. And people sometimes feel like it's unauthentic to pay somebody to listen to them. But if you're struggling with an attachment system, what better way than to have someone who's not obligated, but morally and ethically interested in making sure that you are doing secure somewhere. And as that modeling happens, inevitably the therapeutic relationship will start to teach you what you're doing. Like, it's that little micro relationship that says, oh, I'm starting to feel like this is too tight and close, and so I'm going to want to create some distance. Okay, there's some avoiding coming out, or someone's blowing up my emails, with all their concerns, and I'm like, okay, here's some anxious coming out. Like, just that micro relationship can help teach you how to be secure, and then they can help model it as well.
Yeah. When should we start to worry about our attachment styles? At what point are we like, all right, we got to make some changes?
I think the worry happens when it impedes your goals. A lot of the clients that I work with are high functioning, excellent in their career, great family relationships, well educated, well traveled, beautiful, successful in areas of their life, but then getting into the relationship sphere is just a hot mess. And that's when they get worried, because they're going, something is going wrong here and I'm not showing up in the way that is going to be helpful. And I always just say, whether it's a romantic relationship that's your goal, if it's your career change, if it's parenting better, whatever it might be, if something is impeding your goal that's part of your personality system or where you're doing it, that's your cue. You got to get help.
I think we can always feel like one area or more or like is on like fire in our life, right? Where it's like, okay, that's where we need to spend the time and the attention. You just know the alarm's going off.
Exactly.
And something is, hopefully it's not all at the same time, but sometimes it probably could be. And you said life coach, and then maybe going to that website too, where you can figure out you're just starting there. If you're thinking, I don't know what attachment style I am.
Yep. Yeah. And your therapist, if you decide to go with a mental health provider, most of them are well-versed in attachment systems, and they might even have a quiz in their office.
It's so interesting because we don't really talk about this that much, but it's it's true. What you're saying, it's
we should have this lesson and taxes, like in high school, like just like these two classes.
Taxes and relationship attachment styles 101.
Exactly.
I mean, we should absolutely. In what situations would you say these attachment styles manifest themselves? So
you're going to most often manifest an insecure attachment like anxiety when you are in conflict. So let's do like maybe an example of like a job situation. Have you ever been in a situation at work where your boss comes up to you and they're like, hey, I need to talk to you on Friday. And it's like Tuesday.
And it makes you go,
right?
It makes you think,
if
right? If
you've got a secure attachment with your boss and you're like, I'm sure that it's going to be a great conversation and that this is a bar and like things are cool, you might worry a little bit about how you show up, but most likely you're going to like just put it on your calendar and not think about it.
That's the healthy way.
But let's say that it doesn't go well. Like this is a boss that has like a really stern face all the time and never gives any praise or positive feedback for your work. And if anything, just gives you criticism. When he says we're meeting Friday at 10, you are probably going to be feeling a lot of
your
emotions.
Alarms are going off.
And depending on what you do, this is where the system can really mess you up, because when you feel anxious and you can't go to your boss and say, by the way, I feel very anxious about this meeting. What can I prepare for? Because either you don't have the words or it's just not possible. You're too embarrassed or something. You might spin out in other areas of your life. This is where binge eating can come in, or restricting come in, or over-exercising can come in. This is where you might turn to something else to soothe you.
If you don't feel like you have control of this situation and you're feeling anxious about it, it's going to, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, you can't necessarily go into that soothing space in the direct way you want to, which is being soothed by this thing. And so you've got 5 days and you've just spin out, is what kind of I say, or you go into all these behaviors to try to cope with the anxiety rather than managing it in a more healthy way. And this can really wreck our lives, because let's say it was impulsive spending and suddenly you're in tons of credit card debt. Or let's say that you you said, oh, this must be my relationship. And so you broke up with somebody that was actually going really well. And you attribute the anxiety to something other than it actually is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wreck your life.
With the, in that boss example, is there something to be said about if your boss is that way and all the interaction that you've had, that's all but you don't think it's ever going to change unless you leave your job? Is there anything like a mindset that we can say, okay, I know what this is going to be usually, but I'm going to control what I can control, which is what I do about it?
Yes, exactly. There's a place that you go into where you just say, in my experience, most relationships are unsafe, but that's just a handful of people in the world. And this one's showing up like it looks unsafe, but that's fine. That's within normal. Bosses are not supposed to be, my best friend that I have dinner with every Friday night.
Right.
They're supposed to fit into this box called, I should feel a little intimidated. Otherwise, he has no control over his office. I don't know.
Right.
Or she, I should say.
Right.
This example is a he. But then you go into this, what's within normal limits? What can I expect? And sometimes that's even a friend or mentor that has a secure attachment. And you're like, I'm supposed to meet with him on Friday at 10. And they go, you know what? Yeah, it's going to be a little tricky, and I'm sure you're going to feel a little bit anxious, but it's okay. And what you need to do is just put it out of your mind and just show up, because this is just what he does, and this is normal.
Right.
And so once you learn what's within normal, sometimes that can help calm you down, and then you throw in all your coping skills on top of that.
Okay, that's good advice. What if it's our partner or our significant other that has that different attachment style? How can we best care for them if we see that isn't healthy, and maybe they're not recognizing it?
Oh my word, that is the golden question.
It's hard because you can't really control somebody else, but yet can you try to help them?
Sometimes the best thing that you can offer them is to let them know what it feels like to be with them. And what you're hoping is that it feels like a soft, safe place. They've created a little haven for you to be yourself, and you have for them. And if they haven't, you saying, I want you to behave X, Y, Z, they may rebuff that and say, no, I'm not taking responsibility for all that. That's a you problem. Rather than kind of saying, do you know what it feels like to be with you in these moments? It feels really lonely, and I feel irritated. And those aren't emotions that make me want to come close to you. So if we want to be close, which I think that's our goal, that's what we talk about, we got to talk through what this is, why there's this breakdown, and why you feel like you need to show up this way when I act this way.
Well, I love that it's possible to change these styles.
Is.
That's good to know, because you have the anxious, avoidant, disorganized, insecure, which we all kind of hope that we are, right? That's the goal. But it's good to know that if you are those others, it's possible to do some self-work, some self-reflecting that you can change. And maybe it's you check in every once in a while, because maybe you go back to that secure attachment and then you start finding yourself going to an anxious attachment, but just check in with yourself and over again.
Yeah, the best and quickest way I always tell people to help it start adjusting an attachment system that might be off is to just notice the behavior. I'm like, you can feel as anxious as you want to feel, not that you want to, but you can feel all the feels, right? Let's behave like you're a secure person.
The behavior.
Because your behavior is what is, what they're picking up on right now. And so I can feel anxious. We have to solve this fight right now, but I can behave and say, look, I get that we're a little stressed out and tired. So I know you don't want to talk about this, and I want to talk about it a lot. When can we talk about this? Let's figure it out.
Come to an agreement. What do you see the most, would you say?
Oh, anxiety.
Really?
Yeah, I see it a lot.
All ages?
All ages, yeah. I mean, I would say there's a predominantly higher ratio that I see of anxious women and avoidant men, but I see both sides.
Both sides. Is there anything as an anxious attachment that we can do specifically if maybe someone's listening thinking that's me? That's 100% me in my entire, yeah. Is there anything that you've known that helps to give someone advice?
Yeah. I think when you surround yourself with people who are secure, it helps you behave secure. So if you find yourself in a friend group of people that are just perpetuating the anxiety of, let's say, for example, that dating is just the worst thing ever and there's no good men available. And so every time you go out there, you're just looking for the other shoe to drop, and you're just so anxious about every choice that you make, and you go back into your support system and they validate that, yes, you should have, could have, would have done, da-da-da-da-da, it's not going to help you. So I would just look at who you're hanging out with and make sure that you're hanging out with people that have a positive outlook on whatever it is that you might be struggling with.
That feels calming. That feels nice. What about the avoidant attachment? Any advice for someone who's thinking that's definitely me?
I think you have to look at your goal and you have to say, am I doing something that is getting me closer to it or farther away? And I always say this, like, you're hardwired for connection. Mm-hmm. So as much as you want to avoid, you also want to engage, which is why avoidance will tend to stay in these like long-term relationships, but hold it at arm's length and then eventually break up with them because
they're avoiding.
They're just like, oh, I just have commitment issues, or it's just not the right person, rather than looking at themselves and saying, like, it's my inability to let someone in and being close to me that's actually preventing me from going to the next side. So you have to say, do I want that next life? I think you do. And if you choose not to, like, give yourself some grace and honor that, but be aware as you keep pulling people in to your, when you go into that, I think I do want someone, that requires you to do some work. You know, avoidance, I think, have a tendency to just keep looking for that right person. There's always going to be this right person, but they've had several right people that they won't attach to because they just keep it at arm's length and they don't work on themselves. They always say it's the other person's problem.
So more self-reflecting. What about the disorganized attachment?
Oh, just give yourself a hug. Wrap yourself in lots of
which we can all
blankets.
use. We can all use. Definitely a hug.
I think with disorganized, you're feeling a lot of chaos in your life, and you need to create places that you are safe. If it's not at home or if it's not at work, like, just know that it's within your power to create places where you feel safe, and just keep doing that.
Okay. And then with secure, is there any way we can practice on staying in that secure attachment style?
This is the weirdest thing, but I just wish that people would look up and smile when they're out and about in the world.
Yeah.
One of the easiest ways to reassure people that life is okay and that things are going to be okay is just a pleasant face. A pleasant face and a hi. And we're all...
and connecting.
Yeah, we're all just trying to do the best we can, I feel like. And when we kind of get that reassurance... I mean, have you ever seen those cute, I guess maybe a cute homeless man's not the best way to explain something, but as I was driving here, there was this really sweet, cute homeless man. I don't have any cash. I don't usually do that anyway. I just, interacting has made me, I've had bad experiences, I guess you could say. But he was waving, and he had a pleasant face, and I was like, for sure I'm going to give you that gift. For sure, because this is my way of saying, like, I know that our lives are different, but I see you and I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, we're so disconnected these days. So you're right. There's something to be said about when you walk by someone down the street and you're both like smile and nod, connect eyes, look up. We can all work on that. We can all be better. Well, this is very, I mean, my eyes are open to all of this.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Thank you for the information. This was awesome. Okay, we're going to do something called Fresh Five right now to get to know you a little bit. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, first one. Favorite date night idea?
Oh, anytime I'm with my husband, we have got to go eat somewhere. And my favorite, like, date night that we do is we go to Orlando's in Kaysville.
Ooh, I haven't heard of this one. Orlando's in Kaysville. Okay.
Best Mexican food, but you have to get the strawberry nachos.
I'm writing this down. Orlando's. Okay.
So good.
Okay.
And I just love dinner and a movie.
I'm with you, girl. I like that too. How did you and your husband meet?
We met at a service project in our young single adult ward. We're members of the church, and it was his last one. This was right before they redid everything because he was old. He was getting kicked out.
This was his last chance.
And I was I was 30. I had 6 more months before I was out, and he picked me up while he was trolling the refreshments, and I was doing something else. He's like, I think I need to get you. And I was like, okay. He was smooth.
And here you are. How many years?
12 this year.
12. Congrats.
Congrats.
That's awesome. Okay. Next one. Online dating, yes or no?
Maybe. This is my requirement. If you're going to be online, you need to have resiliency. If you do not feel like you can be resilient, get the heck offline.
Okay.
Like, run. Run. And when you're online, be online for like 10 days and then get off.
Okay. take some breaks.
Take 15, 20 days if you need to, but then get back on for
Maybe
10.
go to Orlando's, get a little
go to
dessert.
Orlando's, remind yourself you're awesome.
Okay. Good advice. All right. Next one. Have you ever shared a toothbrush with your significant other?
On accident, yes. 100%.
What did you do?
I didn't. I think it took a couple days before we realized it, and then it was have you been using this? And I was like, yeah.
Have you?
Have you? Yeah. And I'm like, well, I mean, I think I've used with my kids too. Like, not on purpose. We write our names on our toothbrushes now. I mean,
Hey,
I'll just put
no judgment. You got to do what you got to do. And you're getting those teeth clean. So whatever that is, do it. Okay. Last one. What is making you happy in life right now? What is making you smile?
Oh, spring and the sun coming out. I'm just ready to be outside and play. And every time I walk outside lately, I'm just like, thank you for the flowers.
I know we do have nice weather here. Okay. Well, that was so fun. We learned a little bit more about you and learned a lot about these attachment styles. I'm going to be thinking in my mind how I can better my relationships and going through that. So thank you for the advice and the knowledge. Where can we follow you?
I am at The Dating Counselor at, or on Facebook and on Instagram, as well as at thedatingcounselor.com.
Okay. And do you mind if people like DM you things, ask you
No, I love
questions?
it. Yeah.
You really love this stuff. So I just wanted to make sure you were good with
well,
that.
on Sunday nights I do, every Sunday night I'll put a link out and you can do anonymous questions. So sometimes people are a little shy about their questions. So
Okay.
you can send it in and I'll answer them. So.
Okay. I love that. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And thank you for listening to another episode of Fresh Off the Set. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Congrats, you made it to the end. If you want to continue to freshen up your day, you can watch us on Fresh Living every weekday on CBS Channel 2 in Utah at 1 o'clock. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, KUTV Fresh Living, and follow us on social media. We will see you next week.